for this next year's election to become an EP. My name is Fall. I've been an EP for the last year, and I will be the moderator for today. We're running on a pretty tight timeline here, so I'm just going to go ahead and kick us right off. What we're going to do is we have a bunch of different sections throughout this following hour. What we will do is start off with each of our candidates having 2 minutes to tell us something about themselves, why they are running for EP, and what do they aim to accomplish. I'm just going to go by the order that I have up on my screen. And Vacation, if you could please start.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. Hello, Echelon community, fellow EP candidates and current EPs. My name is Vacation. I have a background in corporate consulting and startup companies. My main focus over my career has been in operations, business development, and product, but my skill set extends beyond those categories. At heart, I'm a problem solver. If I see a need, I design a solution. That innate wiring is what caused me to co-found the Prime Wiki and start the Primetime podcast, which I'm having a lot of fun doing. I saw the community's need for a centralized location for information from the two separate entities of Echelon and Parallel, and with some help from other people, hacked together tools that directly benefit the community. I actively supported Parallel's daily operational needs, primarily in Discord as a warden and occasionally as a business person when they want to run an idea past the wardens. As an EP, I would bring the same solutions-oriented approach to the team in the areas outlined in my candidacy announcement of emphasizing partnerships, activating the community, supporting Parallel, and all the above. During my time as an EP, I would aim to contribute to the team's effort of successfully landing additional large partnerships for Echelon, maybe one or two, and to usher in a new era of community engagement and educational tools that onboard millions. I would spend my time between deal flow, deal outreach management, and product design, as well as UX UI research and usability studies. This focus would span skill sets like pipeline development, relationship management, contract negotiation, strategy, project management, analysis, and more. At a high level, though, I would just work to build coalitions within the community between my fellow EPs and with potential partners. I would also continue my focus on strengthening the relationship between Echelon and Parallel to support the headline studio and the Echelon ecosystem. And that's my 2 minutes.
Fall, I think you're on mute if you're talking, bud.
Yeah, I can't hear you. Okay, it says Seth next. Okay, so that's me. Hi all, I'm Seth. I am an astrophysicist and an applied mathematician. I have over a decade worth of experience computationally modeling sets of differential equations, which is all the entire field of economics actually is. My primary academic work was on simulating black hole collisions. And in pursuit of that work, I devised new applications for existing computational methods, created a code base to put that application into action. Afterwards, I went on to work on the science operations team for one of our current generation orbital space telescopes. And as part of this job, our team would review every submitted science proposal for telescope time every year as part of a feasibility and safety analysis. Through this review process, I became intimately familiar with the level of detail that went into creating a proposal that was even remotely viable. I eventually was a co-investigator on a few proposals with colleagues, and that gave me a completely different perspective from the proposer side as well. I've also served as a peer reviewer for the proposal review panels for that mission, and I've served as a moderator for the NASA Hubble Fellowship Grant Panel. I left that position in 2021, shortly after founding Young Capital. I made a decision that attaining economic freedom would afford me far more academic freedom than I would ever have otherwise. This left me free to explore any topic that I found interesting and to work on problems that I consider fun. So now I consult on the creation and optimization of tokenomic models and general economic models in the Web3 space. I've done unpaid consulting already for Parallel in my position as a Young Capital member. I've also worked directly with the Parallel economics team. If I'm elected EP, I plan to continue that work with the economics team, and I plan to build a much more interactive and fluid way to work with the enormous beast of a data set that is generated when we model the full Prime ecosystem.
And thank you, Seth. I'm going to have to cut you off there. Thank you very much.
Proposals as well. Got it.
Proposals sounds great. Gamble, you're up next.
Campbell. Oh my God. Maybe I'll change my name. What's up, guys? It's Gamble here. So aside from obviously identifying as a recruiter by trade, I'm also a gamer and former professional poker player. And I think that those two things, while the recruiting piece is could be important, especially as we move into working with vendors and trying to figure out, how to fund different studios and development partners to build out the Echelon ecosystem. I think the gaming and professional poker player experience that I have lends itself to me having a really good grasp on how to try to
Okay, there we go.
It's me lost Gamble. I can't hear you, Fall, but maybe I go next as I'm the last one, and maybe when he reconnects, he can continue.
Yeah, okay. That sounds good. Kavak, go for it.
All right, perfect. Hey guys, hey Echelon community, thanks for having me. I'll introduce myself and say how I can help us in Echelon. So I'm CEO, co-founder of Sigil Fund. That's a successful crypto fund in the Web3 space. And specifically, we focus a lot on gaming. So we made the decision to position ourselves strongly into Web3 gaming like a year and a half ago. So we are like a team of 4 full-time on specifically researching gaming. So that obviously helps me a lot when it comes to network, knowing games, knowing marketplaces, knowing platforms, knowing other product solutions like anti-botting, acquisition, retention, kind of gamification tools. All these projects kind of pitched to us, and out of several hundred we reviewed, we made some 20 high conviction investments in tokens and NFTs. Second transferable experience I want to mention, I was a COO of the world's largest poker affiliate. So poker, obviously, as a first play-to-earn game, has a lot of similarities to Web3 gaming concepts. So in terms of acquisition, retention, lifetime values, cost of acquisitions, all these things, I have transferable experience I could apply in Echelon. So I'm running to basically help provide some high quality work, high conviction visions, knowing that landscape in the Web3. I guess we'll talk about it in more detail. I'm candidating obviously with an investor bias. We are a large parallel investor and collector, but I guess it's good to have that bias on the table. I feel maybe in the past it was a little underrepresented. And that kind of leads to the last thing I want to say. On personal level, I'm kind of running to contribute more to Echelon and I would say positive and ex-ante cooperation, because many of you probably mainly know me as a critic in Discord in some of the decisions, which I would like to change a little bit and, put in some work and cooperation in a positive way.
That sounds good, Kavak. Thank you very much for your introduction. Gamble, how about you go with 1 more minute?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
You sound pretty far away right now. And if you're speaking now, we cannot hear you. Okay, sounds good. Okay. Okay, so Gamble is going to be rebooting his Discord. So in the meantime, let's move on to section 2 of this panel. So for section 2, let's have each of the candidates tell us each more about what makes you different from these other candidates. And this candidate list is stacked. What unique skill or perspective do you bring to the table? I'm once again going to go with the order on my screen. Seth, you're up first. 2 minutes each.
Okay, well, as you probably gathered from my introduction, I have an extensive mathematical background, and not every mathematical background is created the same. I'm not an expert in statistics. I'm not an expert in function analysis. What I am an expert in is computational modeling and modeling extremely large, complex systems and breaking them down, simplifying them, and increasing their efficiency. That's also part of my training as a physicist as well. So I bring that to the table. I'm eager to apply that to the economic model for the entire Prime ecosystem. It's already a large ecosystem and it's only going to grow. And as it grows, we're just going to keep introducing degrees of freedom and dependencies between variables. And that sounds a bit abstract, but what it comes down to is it's going to be incredibly difficult to model. And if you can't model this stuff before you release it, it's going to fail. There's just no way around it. And we're talking, hundreds, if not thousands of hours of computer time. So you want to get it right. And so, yes, so that's one of the things I bring. As I also said, I have this background thanks to my work with NASA for their proposal system. And I've contrasted that against the proposal and grant systems all throughout Web3. And the difference is so stark. Echelon Foundation is a real business. It's a real, source of money and management for other projects. And anything we do with dispersion of funds should be rigorous. It should be able to be defensible, and we should be careful with it. So those are two things that I think I have unique perspectives on, different from the other candidates. There are more, but I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Seth. All right, Kavak, you're up next.
Yeah, I think I'm probably the only one who's offering very large existing network of Web3 gaming partners. So, from my position of running a fund for 5 years successfully in this space, we are seed investors in most of the successful gaming projects, also infrastructure projects. So one of the goals of Echelon is to do more BizDev and actually bring partners and establish itself strongly in the space. I can probably introduce some of the valuable partners there, but I think uniquely have the perspective about what competitors are doing and what other platforms exist and are actually trying to accomplish similar goals as Echelon. So in the previous panels, I listened to all of them, exposed from YouTube on 1.5x speed and makes it faster. I listened to perspective of all the others, and I think there are competitors that are aiming to achieve similar things. So we really need as Echelon to kind of pull together our USPs and have high conviction about visions, about what makes sense to do and what doesn't. And I believe I can really help a lot there. So that's probably my unique positioning here.
All right, thank you very much, Kavak. Vacation, let's head over to you.
Sure. So for me, I think there's probably a collection of things that would make me unique. Probably a candidate that doesn't have one specific thing that sets me apart from everybody else. But a few things I would point out would be, first, we've built something that benefits the community with no expectation of return with the Prime Wiki. So we've created a resource for people that they can utilize on a regular basis to stay up to date with what's happening with both Echelon and Parallel. I think secondarily, I would say perspective. In my career, I've had a successful exit from a company, but I've also had multiple spectacular failures. So understanding what makes a company successful versus what doesn't I think it would be helpful perspective as we look at other grant applicants and other potential partnerships in the future. And then absolutely right now, as we go through this grant process, I don't think any other candidate has gone through that before. So understanding what the current grant process is like, and it's been interesting to hear all the EPs chime in on it. But as it relates to the application process, I agree with what most of the other candidates have said. But I would say probably looking at that, taking that experience and helping to create more structure in that process and giving applicants a mold to fit into. So I think that perspective would probably be unique in this situation.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. So it's looking like Gamble is still having some connectivity issues. My goal was to give him a little bit of extra time to speak during this section. However, he hasn't rejoined just yet. So we're going to move on to the next section, which is a group question. So there's no formal flow here. For each of you, where do you see Echelon 3 years from now? And how would you help to see us through this vision? Anyone feel free to start.
Sure, I can jump in. So as a foundation, I see Echelon's network of games, game-related IP, and tools reaching millions of users in 3 years. Assuming that Parallel is the blockbuster hit we all agree it to be, they will lead the ecosystem's user acquisition and Prime token expansion KPIs. With Parallel's success story under its belt, Echelon should be able to attract the best and brightest game, IP, and tool makers from both traditional and Web3 industries. I think Echelon will likely catalyze this growth through a funnel of new game builders, but could also look at acquiring games or tools with promising and sticky products. Spartan Skill mentioned this concept yesterday on a call, and I think it has merit. With the value of Prime being dynamic and the sinks of Parallel filling the Echelon war chests, they could short circuit the standard 2 to 3 year timeline of going 0 to 1 with a new game and make some acquisitions. In addition to games, there are other ways to reach users. Echelon could put serious dollars behind Inbox to upgrade its UI UX to obfuscate the crypto dependency of MetaMask wallet and create an anonymized messaging system that can play in the same space as Signal. Activision, Blizzard, EA, Epic, these entrenched organizations turn out title after title every year. They farm their communities for profit. Imagine a world where the name of Echelon is said in the same breath as those household names, but instead of garnering the ire of its community, it's beloved as an agent of change. Some of you might laugh at this or scoff at the hypothetical, but the murder mystery game of Among Us went from 30 daily active users to millions in a matter of weeks. I mean, why shouldn't we expect the same level of success from the flagship game? Echelon can go in a limited number of directions in the coming years, thanks to the foundation that the year one EPs have built and the quality of Parallel. But picking the correct path or paths will require big ideas, goals, and an agile mindset. So I think the future is bright. I think Echelon will touch millions of users in 3 years, and I would help them do that.
So I'll jump in here, and that was good vacation, and very optimistic. I'm going to pull back a little bit because, from my perspective, I don't think 3 years from now is actually all that long. If you consider that what we're building here is going to be the centerpiece of AAA gaming for the entire Web3 sector. Rome wasn't built in a day. I don't think 3 years from now that we are going to be, in top gear, firing on all cylinders. I think we're going to be pretty close to the end of what could be considered our startup cycle. I think we could have maybe 1 or 2 other genuinely good IPs in the process of being onboarded or just recently onboarded. And I look forward to that. But from my perspective, 3 years isn't that long. I think a year from now, we'll just be getting our toes wet with Parallel. And so then if you take another year for really progressive adoption, we're only talking a year after that. I don't want to rush. I'm not saying we need to be stagnant. I'm not saying we shouldn't take the opportunities that are in front of us. But I consider what we're doing to be a premier event, and we should take measured steps forward, while also, yes, taking the good opportunities if they present themselves to us. But we shouldn't be taking on, maybe subpar IP just to fill a quota, I guess I would say. So where will I help with that? Yeah, I have extensive experience with the sort of mobile gaming space. I feel like I'm deeply entrenched in the mobile gaming community. And one of the areas I want to see Parallel move out to as part of its rollout in its first year is a full mobile client. And it's a big community that spends billions of dollars a year. And I will do my part to help branch us out there.
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Oh my God. Sorry about that. I'm like out walking around now with my phone. I apologize. We're on Parallel 3 years. Echelon in 3 years and how we get there kind of question.
That's right. But Gamble, if you want to take 3 minutes now to chat and like do your introduction and some of your unique offerings, feel free to do that. Else we could do that at the end of this section, whatever you would like.
Yeah, I don't want to break it up. I'll do that at the end, or I can just amend it at the end in chat or something. I don't want to break everyone up. But go ahead if I wasn't next.
No, this is free form. So if you want to chat about where Echelon is in 3 years, it's you have the floor.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I think I agree with everyone that's been saying, they see us in 3 years, having onboarded several other games and IPs, and having everyone kind of using Prime as their ecosystem token. I think that's fairly unanimous. Where I spent a lot of time thinking about this is how do we get there? Like not from a building standpoint, but quite literally, like why would studios working on a game currently, or why would a studio who's Web3 curious or at least open to the idea build on Echelon and use our token when they could go build their own game, launch their own token, and probably at least more easily make more money. And that sounds scummy or whatnot, but that's quite frankly the mindset of a lot of people who are getting into the space. And even if a studio is open to the idea of building a Web3 game or connecting to some sort of Web3 ecosystem, the incentives need to be extremely strong for them to forego launching their own venture. And so I think that the next 3 years, sure, we all want to do that. We all want to see 2, 3, 4 more titles come on. Studios working on games that are gonna be Prime exclusive, but really working back from first principles in the sense that finding out why, spending a lot of time thinking about why would anyone, if we were in their position, do this? And so laying the groundwork, I think obviously these are 1-year terms, so some people are more optimistic about how fast that happens. Obviously, games take a long time to develop, but the relationships don't take a long time to build. So I think that that's going to be the biggest focus, or what would be my biggest focus in year one. Trying to lay that foundation, lay the groundwork for those kind of relationships, and also analyzing and building pitches for that target those incentive spots where we can try to leverage our network as far as our ecosystem of gamers, dedicated, extremely passionate gamers, and try to figure out how we can convey that to other people who are building and try to get them, bought in.
And then, Kavak, would you have anything to add to this section of the panel?
Yeah, sure. So I think just to react quickly also to what we heard in previous panels and from the guys here, so I think we all agree that Parallel is this blockbuster thing that will open up the space that in order for Echelon to even be able to start thinking about becoming a launch pad or becoming the Steam of Web3 gaming and these things, kind of following the Valve Half-Life Steam journey, we need millions of eyeballs on our ecosystem, which hopefully Parallel will bring. So obviously the grand task at hand is still support the Parallel growth and also infrastructure with all the smart contracts, card swapping infrastructure, inbox, and all the tooling that people want to build. So that leads us to grants and all these things. So I fully agree on that. But I also think that like we've been so far lacking like a specific vision about what Echelon's offering is and what really should be the strategy here. Because like if you look at this landscape, becoming the launchpad, becoming the ecosystem, like offering the games your token and maybe your services, this is extremely crowded space. Like we get really dozens of pitches of similar things, and there are also already well-established players. So like in North America, you have Moxie, who's like this big aspirant platform, like offering developer tools and token templates and even legally compliant token issuance and like really almost like a cookbook for indie studios. Then you have Stardust, famously funded by Framework Ventures. There was like a 30 million funding round in October. It's also a platform that's offering all kinds of tooling to the devs, including the payment rails and NFT and like accepting real dollars. So all these regulatory modes to really offer the one-stop show. Then you have all kinds of tournament launchpad and game launchpad plays like Clutch, like Fractal, like Ultra. And then you have also marketplace angles to it. Like, for example, Universe XYZ is offering, a template marketplace, you have Hiroba, and you have all these B2B tools that effectively want to work with games, and they are offering things. But if you're a Web3 game, like Gamble just said it exactly right, like you're always looking at the trade-offs. Like if the game was to onboard itself with Echelon, it would adopt a Prime token, most likely, right? I think that's something to be determined, but so far this has been the plan that they would like have Prime. Maybe there would be deviations from this strategy, but perhaps they wouldn't have their own token. And they would be always comparing, like, what do I get with what do I give up? And there are also, solutions that try to do similar things, like the Treasure DAO and Magic ecosystem. So they have an idea that, like, people stake Magic, and all these underlying games produce staking rewards that effectively feed the value accrual of Magic token. Then you had like on Avalanche, Atoms, Krabada, and their swimmer network. So I guess you want to get me over just to conclude quickly is we really need to understand our strength, like to carve out a package and an offering. I guess it should be a lot about like infrastructure for 1155s, like what Parallel is good at with this NFT swapping tools, Inkbox, and stuff like that. And then probably less is more. So I would target few really good games, probably grow by M&A or partnerships, and really see how we can help them bridge from Web 2 to Web 3 success. So sorry for being too long, but I think this is critical, and we probably didn't hear as much in previous panels about this landscape and how Echelon should really work hard on differentiating yourself and kind of preparing a package that we will be offering.
Thank you, Mr. Quebec. Yeah. This is that was a very good answer to that question. All right, so before this next section, Gamble, would you like to take a few minutes here to talk about finish your introduction and your unique offerings?
Sure. Yeah, I forgot where I got cut off, but I think essentially what I was trying to get at is that my kind of natural intuitions, being in gaming for so long, and my decision-making framework that I've kind of developed over the years playing poker, I think those lend themselves strongly to not necessarily specific, professional tasks such as, for example, accounting or even recruiting, like I had said about my background as well, but they lend themselves exceptionally well to being what I kind of call a force multiplier. So I think I'm really good at getting into different things or learning from other people who have kind of more industry experience in certain areas, or a more deep understanding about technical aspects of certain areas, and understanding how to fill the gaps and help them deliver multiples on the amount that they'd be able to
alone. So it's kind of nebulous, I guess, in that it's hard to quantify. Okay, someone says they're a force multiplier, or there's someone that adds leverage to existing teams. But I really do believe strongly that my problem solving skills and my frameworks for thinking through decision making that I picked up through my years as a gamer and a poker player, really would really be unique and helpful for whatever incoming class of EPs are going to be coming in. And what was the other?
Yeah, if you would like to pen that as well, you could chat about any unique skills or perspectives you could bring to the table, especially targeting the next 3 years of what Echelon is aiming to do.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess that's kind of where I got at with that that piece. But I guess to shift back over to the recruiting thing, obviously, maybe not obviously, I'm not sure. The plan isn't for Echelon to hire their own in-house people. So recruiting, it may not have a direct line relation to what needs to get done, but a lot of it is about vendor management. So figuring out how the whole grant program should work, or I would imagine you guys have a lot laid out already, but maybe fine tuning that, looking into how the procurement happens. So is it like all inbound procurement of vendors, where meaning they're reaching out to us and we're kind of vetting them? Or is there any kind of outbound, like, hey, going out there and looking at some of the top dev shops or the top game studios or whatnot, and figuring out how to solicit solicit them as a client, right? So I think a lot of my experience as a recruiter, and I started my own recruiting company and ran that for a while before getting back into corporate jobs. I think a lot of that experience is relevant as well, just because I understand the market for a lot of things, including software engineers and game engineers and stuff like that. I understand how these shops work, how they price things out, how to kind of spec out in terms of man hours or engineer hours that would go into a project. So that whole world of using the now liquid treasury of Echelon to go out and find teams to partner with to build out all these cool things that we're hoping get built out. I think my experience there in that professional capacity would be very applicable.
Thank you very much, Campbell. All right, we're going to be moving on to the next section, which is also a unguided group discussion. The key question here is, what is the key issue affecting the Web3 gaming space currently, and how can Echelon help to solve it?
I'll start off with this. So gamers, Web2 gamers, general gamers, as most of you probably know, hate us. They despise us. You see us as NFT scammers and grifters. And the idea of GameFi has been completely and totally corrupted as far as the current marketing goes. With the products that are on offer and have been on offer for the past year, honestly, I find it hard to blame them. It is mostly scams and grifts and 8-bit shitty games. So, but the thing is, there's a cognitive gap between what gamers already do and what they want out of their experience and what we offer. And that is, gamers already spend billions of dollars a year, whether in microtransactions or on in-game items. And they end up with a product that in most cases, they don't actually have any rights to or ownership to. You can even see this in some aspects on things like the PlayStation Store. But definitely with in-game assets like skins or weapons. Very few counterexamples like CSGO skins. So they're spending all this money and they're giving it to Activision and Blizzard and everyone, and they're getting nothing tangible in return. And all their hard work is basically going unrewarded. What we can offer them is ownership of that data, of those in-game assets. We can offer them tangible rewards for meeting in-game goals and milestones. And just the message right now is we're not able to get that across to them because all they hear is scams, grifts, NFTs, and so we need to solve the problem how to show the normal gamer that their effort is essentially being exploited for the purpose of profit from the companies that are already in the first place profiting massively from their interest and their desire to have fun. So yeah, we need to take the means of production of fun and achievement and distribute it to the masses. I think that's the biggest problem that Web3 faces right now.
Yeah, I think strong incentives is probably a good answer here. It's very similar to the way we would attract successful studios and products, right? So if we go back to the discussion earlier, like Gamble, you mentioned, why would a company work with us? Well, companies struggle with this question a lot. Do they build the thing themselves to have complete control and extract every last dollar? Or do they outsource the infrastructure and focus on building the game that they love and they wanted to build? I think in that scenario, you're trying to find the right game maker who sees the vision that Echelon champions. Build something that people love and has a sustainable circular economy. Those might sound like buzzwords, but they resonate with this generation of game builders and game players. I think same is true for game players, right? You have things, whether it's a tool or a game, that they enjoy. There's just the altruistic reward of, hey, we're playing the game for enjoyment and we get that out of there. But if you align incentives as well, then you start to really convert people and you create folks that are excited about interacting with the community beyond just the enjoyment of the game. And that's how you spread the word to other gamers.
Perfect. I'll be very clear because there is already a consensus about this topic in the industry. Like probably last 6 or 9 months, most of the decks we have been receiving, and that's like dozens every week, have the vision for successful Web3 gaming kind of laid out. And that is great, fun games, no barrier for entry, so games that are essentially free. Then there's play to own, ownership, but in a fashion that's invisible and voluntary. So you didn't bother a gamer with all these, buzzwords and blockchain and NFT BS. You basically let him play, and somewhere later in the journey, he realizes that some of these items or earnings are maybe NFTs or tokens, and then he has a voluntary option to take assets on chain. Period. So this is pretty clear, like everybody's building towards this vision, including Parallel. I think some more challenges that will come after this is probably botting, like exploiting these valuable economies, and some more stuff, but I promised to be short this time.
No, I agree. I think that's probably definitely the most popular answer to this question that we've heard over the past couple panels, and I think it's incredibly important to solve. I think one that I thought about that was a little different, as to not be beat the same horse, was one that kind of was top of mind very early on and kind of has subsided a little bit for good reason though, and that basically, definitely no one in Web3 so far has built a sustainable economy, token economy, and game economy. That was something that we had. Sorry, I was getting a call on my phone now, of course. We had endless discussions about early on, and because the sinks have come out and chewed up a bunch of Prime, I think that eased that concern in everyone's mind somewhat. But I think that going forward, it's still yet to be proven. Is at the end of the day, are the sinks gonna take more Prime off the market than the hashing and the play to earn or win to earn pool put out? And that's a very tough ask. Although we've had some stuff that's been fairly compelling to this point. A lot of it was, in my opinion, a lot of the volume was more one time, especially autographs, than it was kind of recurring. And we have a ton of things in the pipeline. I'm sure Fall can speak to that, obviously. Even things that we probably don't know about or haven't even been hinted at yet. But I think that's one of the biggest challenges going forward is can we keep the flywheel going and actually create a self-sustaining economy where the demand drives people, sinking prime in and refilling those pools. And that's obviously something for Parallel to work on, as a studio. But Echelon, has its part as well in continuing to develop and optimize sinks going forward, so that we can break the cycle of people wanting to have a high velocity economy where prime is flowing through and it's replenishing the sinks and everything's great and everyone's happy as the game grows. But until that happens, there's a lot of work to go in still to get from where we are now to there.
I just want to add that we don't really need to invent anything new, because TCGs already receive like 680 million in case of Hearthstone per annum of things. It's called spending. So Gamble and I, as people from the poker scene, have a really big focus on this balance between spenders and earners. But effectively, people do spend the money when the games are fun. So I think we are on a good track there.
All right. So heading into this next question, I want to ask the audience to start writing down any questions that you have for the section following this. But for the next 10 minutes, for each of the candidates, feel free to take 2 to 3 minutes to ask any other candidate any question you want, starting with whoever unmutes first.
Okay. Vacation. I have a question for you. I just learned today that you are the primary creator of Prime Wiki. I guess I probably should have known that, so I'm sorry. But this is a good opportunity to ask you a question that I've been thinking about, which is IP retention for projects created through the grant system. So I wanted to hear what your thoughts are about whether or not the grantee, the receiver of a grant, should retain the rights to the IP that they've created, or whether the IP rights should revert to Echelon upon completion, since they're the ones who paid for it. And I guess as an extension, would you personally be comfortable relinquishing ownership of the wiki to Echelon?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's, like I said before, it's been interesting to see and hear all the EP candidates chime in on the grant proposal process. I'll let the EP and the community EPs and the community decide whether there's merit to the grant proposal itself. As it relates to the process and what happens with the IP afterwards, I think that's really a discussion that we're gonna go through with them and have a discovery process. It appears, based off of what I understand, that the defined API remains with them and their team. In terms of using digital assets or utilizing any information that is shared or creating videos or content, it's really been just community driven at this point. So ultimately, we want to continue to provide that to the community. We want to continue to enable the community to stay up to date with what's going on. And I think the question of IP is a good one, but probably one that we can't answer here on this call.
I think that's completely fair. I think you handled it well.
Thank you.
Oh, I want to ask Seth, who's a member of Young Capital, so maybe he has an insight that other people don't have, and maybe from your personal perspective, what do you think in the first epoch the EPs were missing the most? Like, what do you think is on the table that we really need to hire into Echelon?
Okay, so basically, what do I think they lacked? I hope nobody takes this the wrong way. I think the people who took up the communicator roles for Echelon have done a very good job, but I don't think what I've seen is that they were communicators to start with. Like, it doesn't feel like it was their area of expertise, and they sort of rose to fill the job as best they could. And again, I think they've done a good job, but there's a very big difference between somebody who's been trained, for years as a business PR person, right? And they have a certain way about how they'll put out the press release, or how they'll address the community when it comes to official releases in a certain language, actually, that is important, because what we've seen over the past couple of weeks is there's been a lot of confusion and, to some degree, anger over the lack of specificity in the language used to convey some fairly difficult topics that are going on behind the scenes. And I think this is where, maybe even just a subcontractor, somebody who does this professionally for a living, could be the public face, be the one who does the final relaying of the information, and potentially free up the people who aren't, communicators by trade, to work on things that are more close to their areas of expertise.
I have a question for you, Gamble, and it's a softball because I know you've been having connectivity issues. So I want to give you more opportunity to talk. Your experience at Parallel, you worked with the team, you were inside there. How can you take that experience, having been inside a Web3 company that's been successful, and utilize that to identify companies that are coming down the pipeline in the Echelon deal flow?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That is a nice softball. Yeah, I think that it kind of goes hand in hand with my investment thesis in Parallel and what kind of sucked me in the beginning. There were so many things that like checked the box, right? Like they were doing so many things right, from the quality of the work, obviously, which is kind of somewhat easier to see on the surface, in terms of eye test, right? Like the hold on 1 second. Sorry, my kid just came in the room. Apologies. Yeah, so obviously the quality on the surface from an eye test perspective is big, but that's tough, right? Does that mean that the game's going to be fun? No. Does that mean that it's going to be successful? No. But from the very beginning too, I think seeing all of the moves that the team was making in terms of not being selfish, not taking the I'm so sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Can someone else just hop in for a sec?
What we could do is, Kivak, do you have a... Oh, wait, you already asked. It was Gamble that we're still waiting to ask. All right. Well, hopefully Gamble comes back in like 10 seconds.
Warwick's question while we wait, if that is cool.
That sounds great.
Okay. So Warwick asked, how do you think the group dynamic between EPs should be, individual or collective accountability? So none of us have the same expertise, pretty much, or none of the EPs and none of us prospective EPs have the same expertise. It's going to be best if there are projects where 2 or 3 people can collaborate on, rather than sending each person off into their own corner of the world to toil away by themselves. Small groups promote accountability, they promote problem solving, and they prevent rabbit holes from happening. But the EPs as a whole, as I understand it, there are daily or weekly calls where they all are accountable to each other. And if one or two or a sector of the EPs stop delivering or really fail in their ability to produce the work that they promised, that brings down the whole panel as a whole. And so that would warrant, I think, the rest of the EPs saying, okay, you guys need to break it up, redistribute yourselves, find something better to work on. But it does reflect on everyone.
Yeah, I want to add into the same question, like what I really want to, if I get elected, and please do vote for me if I convinced you with maybe some industry knowledge, I would really like to look at that retention model and play to earn reward pool, because this is something I really have tons of experience from the poker world, where we were modeling lifetime values of players, retention cohorts, liquidity pools, balance between spender and earner. And there's also things like, for example, schedule of tournaments, where currently it's designed that some tournaments will be with glints, some will be with prime. I think these are critical topics to design well, so that, let's say, the Web2 gamers can dip the toe in the water and really try the offering. But then we need really compelling bridges into this, world of Prime and NFTs and the whole Prime ecosystem, so that they really feel the need to, acquire cards and play these tournaments. So that's something I'd really be looking forward to help with my transferable experience from poker. So I guess that will be also with you, Fall, potentially, about the whole ecosystem design. I also think there are stuff like looking at the periods of seasonality, that naturally we will have high sync periods. For example, if there will be a battle pass or some seasonal annual renewals, and then looking at those schedules, how it really fits in the play to earn pool, etc. So this is really something where I would like to see the models, the numbers, the tokenometry, and chime in.
All right, thank you very much, everybody. We're going to move on to the community questions, unless, Gamble, you have a nice and succinct question you would like to ask any of the other candidates. Oh, okay, it sounds like Gamble is bowing out. Thank you very much for your time. And let's move on to the community questions. I've got one here from Zero. For everyone, have you made any proposal to Echelon in the past year? If yes, which? If not, why? Do you think Echelon had done everything right? And one key thing that he's added to the end of his question, make your case as to how your proposals and your movements are not solely in the interest of your own holdings within the Echelon ecosystem.
Yeah, I guess I can start with this one, because many people will probably remember I had big feedback to the latest bulletin in terms of the prime sets, and I also appreciated the ending of the question, because that's something I wanted to touch on. So I'm obviously one of the biggest collectors of Parallel, and as such, there's a big monetary interest that the incumbent assets don't start losing value. I don't think that would be the intention of the ecosystem designers or anything, but that's for sure a big monetary bias. So I don't want people to remember me as this whale who only comes in to criticize when the value accrual to the items is touched. So this is really a primary motivation. One of the three primary motivations for me to kind of candidate is to really contribute positively ex ante, in preparation of these things, rather than coming as a critique ex post, which you often saw me in the past. So yes, I made this feedback / proposal to modify that, and the compromise was reached. I think about that ability to reach the compromise, this is really important. So you guys probably don't know me as much, but I'm extremely meritocratic and fair person. I'm born in the Libra zodiac, and kind of balance and harmony is really important in my life and career. I'm also notoriously known as giver. So as long as people don't betray my trust, I really like to invest into relationships. I think this is not something I displayed in Echelon. So hence, again, last time, this is one of my motivations to run and perhaps contribute more positively going forward. And yes, it's important to keep those biases in check and reach consensus. And I think I showed that I supported, the proposal in the latest bulletin. There was a small tweak to the numbers, but eventually the steps taken were for the long-term health, mainly when it comes to play to earn pool and players. So yeah, that working as a team and really with especially ecosystem health for the long term will be key here. And I think also being a collector and a large collector isn't bad in this process, because you obviously understand the space and have skin in the game.
I think this question has a lot of weight to it. So why don't we just repeat this question to each of the candidates? Vacation, I see that you unmuted.
Yeah, I can jump in here next. So, have you made any proposal to Echelon in the past year? If yes, which? If not, why? Do you think Echelon had done everything right? Do you have additions to the prime proposal, etc.? So I think I just want to jump into question number 4 there, or 3. Do you think Echelon has done everything right? I don't think any organization can ever do everything right. I think that's kind of naive to assume that. But if you get the big things right, then I think that's what you're trying to shoot for, i.e., the launch of Prime, for example. So was it done exactly the way the community wanted to be done? Maybe not, but it was launched. It is transferable and it is available, which for the most part, everybody had that desire and voted that way with their Prime. So in terms of my contributions, I would say I have been active. I have communicated with the EPs. I've made my voice heard in the ecosystem, and I have shared my perspective. I think I've garnered some strong relationships with team members from both Parallel and Echelon, and built a tool with the Prime Wiki to enable the community to stay active and stay informed. So I think additions to the Prime proposal would probably look something like refinements over time. As you know, it's a living document. It was one thing in February of 2022, and now it's something different now as it gets upgraded and changed with bulletins. So there's definitely a lot that will change over time, but those small nuanced changes, I think, will be the direction that the EPs need to go. And I'm sure Sath, as somebody that consulted with the team and helped them design the economics, you could probably speak to a larger degree and more specificity there. But small tweaks and movements and refinements over time is what I would say.
Yeah, thanks. I'll pick up there, and I guess I'll just go through point by point, and I'll sort of sum it all up at the end. Have you made any proposal to Echelon in the past year? I have not. I'll get to why. Do I think Echelon has done everything right? I do not. Similar to Vacation, I don't think there is any possible way that they could have done everything right. I also, independent of anything else, I think they've been faced with choices where there were literally no right answer. And all you can do is take the best of a bunch of bad options. And what that looks like to everyone on the outside is that they deliberately picked a shitty option. And, that stinks. But I do also think there were times when the EP
Just checking, has Sath's mic cut out for others?
I can't hear him. Yeah, he's gone.
All right, we'll give him just 10 seconds here, see if he can reconnect.
Nope, on the contrary, he's gone.
Oh, he's back. Here we go.
Sorry, looks like I disconnected. Where did I get cut off?
You were just chatting about making the best bad decision.
Okay, the best bad decision. Yes. Okay. I think what I said next was that there, sometimes the EPs as a whole lacked the information to know that they didn't even have the information that they needed to make the right decisions, which led to them making incorrect decisions. And that's just due to not enough specific expertise in some areas for the existing EPs. So they've done things wrong. It happens. I also talked about the communication issue before. Okay, do I have any additions to the Prime proposals? Yes and no. Well, I mean, the PP has come and gone, so any additions is this basically means, is there anything I want to change about the proposed Prime ecosystem as it exists now? Yes, there is. Do I know exactly what it is yet? No, I don't, and it's something that I think will come with a lot of pen and paper, a lot of time in some Python, and a lot of computer hours. But I do have this sort of like the feeling that things could be a bit better than they are, and I'm going to work towards that. But I couldn't be more specific with you right now. Why should you believe that I am motivated to build a healthy ecosystem now if I'm not trying to change it before? Easy answer, I have tried to change it before and I've contributed to changing it before. But in the spirit of answering the question, I've been interested in Parallel since the pre-sale. I didn't personally take part in it, but a bunch of my friends did. I spent my money instead on chain binders, which was the stupidest and funniest decision I've made in crypto in the past 2 years. So I kind of dropped that ball. But I've been friends with the team. I've been getting to know everybody. I've been a Parallel supporter since then. So, and that was before there was even talk of a token. Before this was back when Prime keys were like 0.2 ETH. Now there was no financial incentive. So I'm still here. I still want to make it better. I guess that's my answer there.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Just before we wrap up here, I want to give each of these candidates 1 minute to just give a closing comment, and then we'll wrap up the fourth panel for the second round of Emissary Primes. Just going by the order on my screen, Kavak, do you have a closing comment?
Sure. So if you want high quality execution, high convictions, really deep knowledge, wide and deep in the Web3 gaming space, I'm probably a good choice there. I also have history as a CEO running a global corp, so I had like 1,000 people under my line and some big business decisions on my table daily. And I'm passionate about Echelon and Parallel, so I hope you guys give me a chance to contribute.
Thank you very much. Vacation?
Yeah, so this is a great opportunity. I would love to continue to support the community in a role and expand the ecosystem, utilizing the foundation that the EPs in year one have set. Taking this ecosystem from where it is today and where we think it could be in 3 years is going to take a lot of work and commitment. I think I've proven to the community that I'm committed. I literally worked for free for 1.5 years to help garner a better Discord experience and then disseminate the information between the Parallel and Echelon in a singular location. And I would love to continue to do that and to build relationships with everybody, both on the EP team, Parallel team, and within the community in the future.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Seth.
I appreciate the opportunity to be up here. I hope that I have made a compelling case for why what I consider to be a unique set of skills that I have are helpful and necessary for this next epic of EPs. I want the best for the Echelon Foundation. I want the best for its underlying product that it manages, which is Parallel in the Prime ecosystem. I'm here because I believe in the vision. We were all asked where we see Parallel, where we see Echelon in 3 years, and it's a good question. But what I think is, where do we see Echelon in 10 years? I think that's what matters, and I want to work over the next year and beyond to make sure that Echelon is still around in 10 years. And that's where my sights are set. And I think I'm poised to make that happen. So thank you all.
Thank you very much for showing up to the panel, everybody. If you have any further questions, the EPs can be reached here on this Discord, and there will be another round of panels in the future with the same EP candidates. Details about that are coming soon. I hope you all have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks for emceeing, Fall. Good talk.
My pleasure.
JVAC, Sath. Have a good one.
Yes.